Hello everybody and welcome to the face reading for successful relationships. For those of you who are with me today for the first time, if you get interested in the subject of face reading, you can watch my YouTube Introduction to Face Reading. You can also buy my book Face Reading Secrets for Successful Relationships. It is available on Amazon.com. After I did the reading of Steven Spielberg, I thought it would be so good to do a reading of my other old-favorite filmmaker, James Cameron. Particularly that this guy has a juicy marriage history. He was married not once or twice, not 3 times or 4 times. He is in his 5th marriage now. So this reading, as you can see, belongs to a different category, the category of relationships. Let's see if we can learn from his mate choices, something we did not know about him before. But first, I'm tempted to remind you of the movies James Cameron directed, produced, and or wrote. Altogether, Cameron directed 11 films, not 34 like Steven Spielberg. But Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park, the most successful in terms of viewership movie, had worldwide earnings of $1.3 billion. Cameron's Titanic made $2.2 billion, and his Avatar made $2.8 billion. It's almost the GDP of African country Liberia, which is roughly the size and population of Ireland, meaning that everything that the economy of 5 million people produced in 1 year is equal to what one movie of James Cameron earned. I just like playing with the numbers. Terminator 2, for example, made $500 million, and Arnold Schwarzenegger received a salary of $15 million for 700 words that he said during the movie. So Hasta la Vista Baby, therefore, cost $85,716. Okay, let's go back to business of face reading. By the way, a while ago I did the reading of Elon Musk and his ladies of choice and his relationship with them made us learn something new. So let's see what we'll learn from this experience. So James Cameron, ladies and gentlemen, and his wives, of course. As usual, we'll first read his face, that is personality. Then we'll talk about his profile / temperament. And then we'll talk about his wives and the possible dynamics of those relationships. So here is James. At first, it's easy to see he is clearly a sun. But if you look at this picture, let me rotate it a little because it's tilted. Here, he looks more like Uranus. So which one is he? I think he is both. If we know that if a person has the appearance of 2 faces, it means that she indeed has qualities of both. So as Uranus, James Cameron is extremely time conscious. He likes timelines, he likes time to be accounted for, he's very reliable, must have order to be comfortable. He has more perseverance than any other personality. He's always organized and meticulous, always knows what he has done and what is to be still done. He's a deep thinker with philosophical inclination. He likes to work on specific details and take one point and goes deeply with it. He may be somewhat pessimistic at times and cynical, and at times also quite eccentric. And what the sun face adds to Cameron's personality is the ability to detach from the outcome as he pursues his goals. That is a very important prerequisite for success in any long-term endeavor. He is also sociable and great company if invited, and if it's not, he's just fine. Out of sight, out of mind is how he operates. Very unlike if he were just a pure Uranus. In a romantic relationship, he needs a lot of space and time for himself. Someone who wants to be with him all the time would make him quickly feel suffocated. This is important to remember because we'll talk about the choices he makes in romantic partners. Being a sun also adds to Cameron's personality the ability to have original ideas, creative ideas, as well as seeing old ideas in a new way. These are two faces of James Cameron. And now let's look at his profile, that is his temperament, characteristics he arrived into this world with. I think it's quite clear. Straight line from the forehead to the chin. Here comes our bilious. On this picture, the same. But the third trait, you probably noticed, the third trait that we're looking at when we are trying to determine one's temperament, the corner of the jaw is not bilious at all. It is, of course, nervous. Looks like no corner at all. That makes James bilious with a nervous jaw and the nervous cast as well. But wait, what about the skin under the chin? That flash under the chin is the lymphatic feature. So we have a bilious with a nervous jaw and nervous cast and a lymphatic chin. Now let's make sense out of all this. As a bilious, James was born a natural leader, willful, long-distance runner in his mental efforts, in work or fun. Long-distance planner, he is active and organized. When he encounters a problem, which he usually seeks out, it does not discourage him, it fuels his will to overcome. But when it comes to acting on his ideas, that presents somewhat a challenge. His energy is that of the nervous. You see, there is really no corner of the jaw there. There is also the nervous cast, the red bow, which makes him delay acting on his ideas. But there are, of course, the gifts that come with being nervous. James has an unusually quick mind, is very sensitive, can be super charming, very creative, imaginative, and is fun to be around. He is able to understand complex ideas of others and also able to quickly come up with ideas on his own. Lymphatic quality, the blue line, which he developed with age, of course, brings patience, tolerance, and flexibility. There is an interesting feature that I would like to mention, and that is the triangulation of the wings of his nostrils, which tells us that he is highly competitive and possibly jealous. Well, and how about this quality playing out in the relationships? Let us see. Let us now turn to his women of choice. Cameron married Sharon Williams when he was only 24 years old. The marriage lasted, as you can see, 6 years. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a picture of them together. Her face is clearly Mars. And what do we know about the Mars personality? Of course, it's one of the sanguine faces, and all sanguines are impulsive, all are somewhat aggressive, ready to go for a fight. And Mars is the most action-oriented of all sanguine personalities. They do not have the patience to address issues. Instead, they fight to get their way. They will enter into a fight spontaneously, fighting without regard for life or limb. The Mars take risks and are accident-prone because they do not like to take time to assess the situation and have trouble foreseeing the consequences. It is interesting because with all the biliousness of James, he has a nervous cast, which makes him more cautious rather than being a risk-taker. Once he uses his bilious part to explore all the possibilities, he's ready to move ahead. But simple risk-taking of the Mars probably would make him feel uneasy. Mars, like all sanguine personalities, has the shortest attention span and the shortest fuse. And of course, people with Mars personality are courageous, spontaneous, generous, and unpredictable. 6 years of that, and some nuances of their relationships, of course, and we may never know about that. That was enough for James, and he moved on. But it looks like James must be in a relationship because only 1 year later he married Gail Ann Hurd, or Hurd, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. Yet another Mars. 4 more years of the same personality, and Cameron moved on. What was it? Did he get tired of the same personality, but he was attracted to Mars women? Maybe. And maybe there are reasons. Maybe this partner's choice was just a coincidence, one way or another. But the same year that James divorced Gail Ann, James married a woman with quite a different personality. Catherine Bigelow, whose personality is a Neptune. Of all pure personalities, the Neptune are the most spiritually inclined. They're seekers from the get-go, and by the age of 30 are usually well underway in their spiritual journey. The Neptune are imaginative, creative, and resourceful. They can master any vocation or art as long as they're inspired. The Neptune have difficulties in personal relationships, or because their sense of right and wrong is self-determined and does not always correspond with social norms. There is another feature that Catherine is different from Cameron's two previous wives, and this is their lips. Notice Sharon and Gail Ann have a thin upper lip, meaning that they did not or do not share easily what's deep inside. While Catherine has a full lip, upper lip, and that means that she is sharing or doesn't have difficult time sharing. And yet in 2 years, once again, James moved on. The marriage was over. And this time he took the longest break from getting married ever. It took him 6 years to become ready to say I do once again to Linda Hamilton, one of the stars in the Terminator films. And guess what? Another Mars with a thinner, not too thin, but clearly thinner upper lip. Now we see the pattern. James is definitely attracted to women with Mars face, which means with this kind of personality, but with the face comes personality, and that makes him run away. 2 years later, and James on the move again, but not for long, not for long. 1 year later, he marries Susie Amis, and he has been married to her for 19 years now. That's an incredible record for James. But wait a minute, it looks like she is yet another Mars. Isn't it true? Look at the profile, sanguine with the Mars personality. The same story, or is it? Let's look once again. It looks like she is, yes, a Mars. But if we look carefully, we may also see that she can be easily identified as a Neptune. Remember Catherine, wife number 3? She was a Neptune, but without Mars. But Susie is both. By the way, her upper lip is also full. Here in this picture, without a smile, you can see, right? A full lip. So Susie has a fighting spirit of a Mars and spirituality of a Neptune, generosity and spontaneity of a Mars, and the quiet and thoughtfulness of a Neptune. I'm sure that there are other things that Susie offers James that I'm not aware of, but I think that it is not by a chance that out of 12 faces, personalities, James Cameron was married to 4 Mars faces and 1 Neptune face. And the marriage that endured 3 times longer than any other marriage she had is with the woman who possesses personalities of both in one person. I hope that this marriage will endure. And it seems like they're doing fine. And that is all for James Cameron and his wives. Thank you for being with me today. Peace to all who want to be in peace.